Hi guys, this is Angel, Guild Leader of Fire and Ice. This video is to explain the Fire and Ice Suicide Kings loot system, otherwise known as FISK. We are implementing this loot system for 3.0. First, you may be wondering, what is Suicide Kings? Well, it's a priority loot system. It's a list of guild members that consistently show up for raiding. Whoever is on top of the list gets priority over someone below them. Once someone receives an upgrade piece of gear during a raid, they are FISKed to the bottom of the list. It's a simple way to distribute loot quickly and efficiently in a raid. No waiting on loot council, bids, rolling, etc. The reason to use this loot system is because there are no arguments on how the loot is distributed. We all know how precious raid time can get eaten up after every boss fight due to waiting on loot council to decide what to do. With this, there won't be that question about whether loot council is favoring someone or how unfair it is when one person constantly gets more loot because of lucky rolls. If you're on top of the list, you will get that piece of gear. If you're not on top of the list, then you already understand that the person above you gets priority. And just so that everyone knows, DKP and EPGP bidding systems, they're just something that will never be a consideration for Fire and Ice. It's just too much work and too much of a headache. Suicide Kings eliminates any confusion, and it's as simple as knowing where you are on the list. It's also pretty simple for the officers and raid leaders. By the way, guys, this is Zach. He's our dancing bear, and he wears a pretty purple tutu. Now, you might be wondering, how does it work? First, we make a list of raiders. We'll have a meeting in the guild dimension with everyone that's interested in raiding to start the list. If you're unsure about raiding, would like to wait, you can be added to the list at a later time. We'll let the guild know in advance when the meeting will take place. If someone's unable to attend, they can send a note to me or one of the other officers. Please keep in mind that anyone that wants to raid in Fire and Ice must follow our raid rules and guidelines as listed on the guild website. Everyone in attendance will /roll 1 to 100 for a number. That random number will determine where they end up on the initial list. Next, the names will be put in order to create our list. So you're probably thinking, okay, so we have names and numbers. How does this list work for raiding? Well, for the sake of this video, we're going to pretend we're doing a 5-man raid. From your master list, you will only be concerned with the people in the current raid group. That means Bruce, Jane, Laz, Bob, and Tommy are all attending this raid. You can see we pulled them from the master list and created a second list. You'll also notice that the spots these raiders held in the master list are currently left blank. That is because after the raid, if anyone is moved in the raid list, they'll also move in the master list. If they don't move in the raid list, they get their original spots back. So, you're in the raid, and bam, you killed the boss. Good job. It's time for some fat loot. Bruce is on the top of the list, but the item that dropped is not an upgrade or is usable for him, so he passes. The loot that dropped is an upgrade for both Jane and Tommy. Since Jane is above Tommy on the list, she has two choices. She can take the item and move down the list, or she can pass the item and stay in her current spot, which if we look back at the master list, she's at spot number 3. However, Jane decides to use her FISK and takes the item. So Jane moves to the bottom of the list, and Laz, Bob, and Tommy all move up 1 spot. So the new raid looks like this. This process will continue with any upgrade gear obtained during this raid. Now, for the sake of demonstration, we're going to say that only one person got an upgrade and was FISKed to the bottom. Now, let's go back to that original list, and we remember how we pulled people from this list to the raid list. When we moved those people to the raid list, we left the spots in the master list open. Now that the raid is over, we need to put those guys back in the master list. The order they go back in has changed slightly because of a gear drop. Bruce did not get any drops, so he stays at number 1. Jane got a drop and was moved to the bottom. So Laz, Bob, Tommy, and Jane all shift spots in the raid list, so they get put in their new spots in the master list. You'll notice that Sally, Timmy, and Dory did not move at all from their numbers. That's because they didn't participate in this raid. The new list is what will be used for the next raid. Now, what do you do if someone is in the raid but they're not on the FISK list? It may be someone that was not available, or maybe they joined the guild after the list was made. So adding a person to the list is pretty straightforward and easy. All you need to do is pull up the most current raid list, which officers and raid leaders have access to, and then you simply add the new person, or if there's multiple people, to the bottom of the list. Remember, with multiple people, you just have them do a / roll to see what order they get put in to the list. Now, people who have been around longer or have been more active raiders, they don't lose their spots this way, and the new raiders still have a fair chance at drops. If someone leaves the guild or stops raiding, their name simply gets removed and the list shifts accordingly. We will have 2 master lists going. One will be for mains and one will be for alts. Now, if you're confused about this, you can look at the F&I guild rules and simply put F&I rules state, main tune is the character you play consistently in raids. A main spec is the role you play consistently in the raid. Tank, heal, DPS, support. The alt list will be for alt tunes and off-spec roles. This should be pretty straightforward. For instance, my main is Heals Angel and I'm a cleric tank. Yes, I know my name says Heals. I brought the name over from WoW and I thought it'd be healing, but remembered that I love the tank. Anyways, now I do have a DPS spec on Heals Angel. That would be on the alt list. I also have my mage, Miss Angel. She would be considered an alt if I decide to raid with her. Now the alt list will be created as a need arises, most likely at the start of the first raid. After that first list is established, then we simply add to it as time goes on. Off-specs will only be put on the list if they are active off-specs that can actually be put to use. I say that because while everyone has the opportunity to have many off-specs, not everybody uses them. Notice how this alts list does not have everyone from the master list on it. That's because Sally and Bruce don't have an off-spec that they would use for raiding purposes, so they opt out of having them on the list. They might, however, have alts that they bring in occasionally. Alts are added to the bottom of a current list just like how you would add new raiders to the master list. Now, I would like to mention a safeguard against anyone that would try to cheat the system. Let's say Jane was the only person that could use an item that dropped. She didn't want to use her FISK and lose her place. She also knows that the guild doesn't want to rune break it if it's an upgrade. So in this case, she would still get the gear, and she would still be FISKed to the bottom of the list. Now, if she's adamant on not wanting the item and not wanting to drop down on the list, then it will be offered for off-spec or alt. If there's nobody to take that, it will be rune broken. This way, the system cannot be cheated and will still remain fair to everybody. So overall, I hope this video has helped remove any fears or doubts. I know that trying something new can be scary for some people, but for those of us that have done progression raiding or have done the larger group raids, like 20-man groups, it just really removes a lot of headaches and takes care of loot whiners or loot hogs. This should put everybody on the same page, and we can spend more time getting to the loot and less time fighting over the loot. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Big tackle hugs to everybody. If you have any questions, please make sure to post them in the forums on the guild website, www.fireandiceguild.com. Thank you.